You are listening to the Happy Mama Village, a podcast for mamas, about mamas, and by mamas. Bryann and Annie are both certified professional life coaches, passionate about empowering mamas to live wholehearted lives, find purpose in the mundane, and embrace feeling lit from within. Bryann's expertise is working with women going through or recovering from a divorce, loss, or breakup. Annie is an expert in helping families thrive through shifts in mindset and parenting techniques. If you are feeling overwhelmed and unseen and are wanting to take you and your family beyond the status quo, this podcast is for you. We are so happy you are here.
Welcome back to another week at the Happy Mama Village.
Today we are continuing our talk about Pride Month and the LGBT journey with Chad Ganey.
We are your hosts, Annie Henderson
and Bryann Zielinski. Here at the Happy Mama Village, we discuss all things pertaining to happy mamas, like relationships, parenting, self-care, mama tips, parenting an LGBTQ kiddo, and so much more. So first, I just want to give a shout out to you, Annie. You did such an amazing job last week.
Oh, my goodness.
That episode is going live today, and I'm just so stinking proud of you. You did so great. You were so vulnerable and honest and open, and I know that can be scary, so kudos to you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you for hand-holding me through that. Yeah, when passion meets vulnerability, you get some squeaky Annie moments.
Hey, squeaky Annie is good Annie. We're good with it.
Well, thank you.
So I am excited to continue the conversation today with our guest.
Yes.
Super excited.
Yeah. So the amazing young man we're hearing from today, I was recently introduced to by his mom, who I used to work with. She also has a very touching story, but wanted him to be able to speak to it. So, Chad Ganey, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have the opportunity to come on here.
Yeah, so excited. So I know you are traveling, so it means a lot that you would take some time out today, this last day of Pride Month, officially, right? To share about your journey and your beautiful story.
Happy Pride Month, everybody.
Yeah, happy Pride Month.
Yes, thank you so much for being here today, because whether we know it or not, everyone knows and probably loves somebody that is in the LGBTQ community.
That is
absolutely
so true. So true. So whether you know it or not, if you're like, no, I don't know anybody. Oh, you do.
I bet you do.
You do.
You just don't know you do.
All right. So Chad, as our listeners will hear from you later, you have a happy ending, or rather early middle to your story, but
yes.
it didn't start out that way, right?
No, not at all.
Can you please walk us through your journey and what it was like when you first came out?
Yeah, so when I came out, I was actually 23 years old, and
so you were late in life, as
yes.
Annie likes to call it, in your mid-20s.
Yes, it took me 23 years more so to just accept it to myself that I was gay and that it was okay to come out as a openly gay male. And the biggest struggles I had wasn't so much with my family, because, I came from a very, very strong core family values and a very loving, accepting family who I think deep down I knew they would do anything for me. But my struggles were more so with the spiritual aspect. And I was raised, my grandfather was a Baptist preacher in Jacksonville, Florida, and I grew up in the church, and I was very much raised with the teaching in Sunday school. I remember my Sunday school, when he covered homosexuality in the Bible, saying that if you're homosexual, that you are going to hell. And I was in fifth grade when I realized that I was gay. And I remember just thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, basically just crap, like, I'm going to hell. And it just absolutely terrified me. And so I came to the self-realization that, you can't help if you're a man attracted to a man or a woman attracted to a woman, but you can help if you act on it. So I decided to live the rest of my life as, even though I was attracted to men, I was never going to act on those emotions, and I was just going to live a straight life. And so I didn't come out to anyone in high school, nor did I have any intentions on it. And then I got to college and I ended up getting a girlfriend pretty quick, about, I think, my second month at Texas State. And, I ended up being with her for 5 years. And another way to look at it is that's 5 years of lying to somebody whom I cared incredibly deeply about and still care incredibly deeply about to this day. And looking back on it, I thought I was doing my family a service and those around me. Like, I didn't want them to have to talk to their families and friends about being the parents with a gay son. And I didn't want them to constantly have to explain my quote unquote situation. And, but hindsight 2020, that was actually a pretty selfish thing for me to do. And, because the best thing you can do is just be honest to those around you. And people can't truly love you unless you truly love yourself and you're willing to explain who you are as a person to them. And you can't give them just a piece of the pie. You need to give them the whole thing.
Well said, Chad. Well said. Yeah. I was married for 7 years, and yeah, we can think about it as, we were doing the right thing at which is what we thought at the time, but we were also eating up half a decade of someone else's life, not fully loving them like they could be loved.
Yeah. And that was that was the most difficult part, and with me, as what I found to be the case with a lot of the LGBT community, the way I coped with lying those 5 years was I turned to alcohol. And for about 5 years straight, I was a daily drinker. And I remember I would hide it from those around me. I would wait till everybody else would, and whoever I was living with at the given year would go to bed. And then I'd sneak out a bottle of vodka and then I'd start drinking it. And, that just doing that to yourself over that long of a time span, it really takes its toll. And the drinking's a big part of my journey because, that's how I think that my family started to realize, there's something going on. And fast forward to when I was 23. At this point, I'm living at my parents' house while going to school. And my mom came home from work one day and she walked in the house and she could smell gasoline because I was mowing the lawn, and I definitely had quite a bit to drink before I decided to mow the lawn and ended up spilling gas everywhere. And she came in, and at first she was like really upset, and then we walked up to my room, and she was like, "Chad, why are you doing this? Why do you keep doing this to yourself? I don't understand." And I was like, of course, I'm denying. I was just like, nothing's wrong. I'm fine. I'm fine. And she was like, "You're obviously not fine. You reek of gasoline and alcohol." And she started guessing things. The first thing she asked, she was like, is Emily pregnant? And I was like, no, that's definitely not it. And then
That's not funny, but
yeah, no, but that was her first reaction. And then she went down a laundry list of questions and then just answering no to everything. And I just kept telling her, you don't understand. And then finally, the last question she arrived at, she was like, are you gay? And then I just broke down and I was like, and I told her, I was like, yes, I'm gay. And then
wow.
the first thing she did was, honestly, she like chuckled. She goes, that's what this has been about. That's why you've been putting yourself through this. She was like, Chad, I don't care. You're my son. I love you. And that's never going to change. I love you no matter what. And it was just, I was just overcome with all kinds of emotion while this was going on. And then my thought immediately turned to my dad. And I was like, don't tell dad. And I don't even know why, because my dad is an absolute saint. He's the person, one of the people I look up to most in this world. And she was like, Chad, we can't not tell your dad. And then my dad came home, walked into the door a few minutes later from work. And she was like, stay here. She was like, I'm going to go talk to your dad. He's going to come up and we're going to tell him. And I was like, okay. And so she goes downstairs and turns out, and she told him, I remember she told him, she was like, Brad, here, take a shot. and he was like, I don't want a shot. What is wrong? What are you telling me? She goes, Brad, just have a drink. And he's like, I don't want to drink. What is going on? And then finally she goes, Chad's gay. And then she said he didn't say a word. He just immediately walked up to my room. And he walked in and I was sitting on my bed crying. And he looked at me and he goes, I always knew you loved sausage pizza. And then, which is a totally my dad thing to say, to just cut the tension. And then, so I just started laughing and stood up, and he gave me a big hug, and he told me he loved me and that everything was going to be fine, that I don't need to be ashamed about anything, and about how proud he was of me. And then I've had this just overwhelming, just like weight lifted off my shoulders. And then also this sense of, in retrospect, just like I put myself through so much because this is what I feared. And that it was a very, very humbling, very godly moment for me.
Oh, I'm crying over here.
Wow.
So good.
I'm kind of speechless. My heart hurts. My heart hurts for you, for that 23-year-old you, and that 20-year-old you, and for all those people out there who are living a lie, for other people, like you're hiding who you were. There's somebody out there who's hiding who they are, and they're not being fully loved. I think that's the part of when you were telling your story that I think touched me the most is I'm trying to imagine going through my life not ever being seen or truly loved by the people who know me the best, by my support system, by my family and my friends. And nobody can really love you. They can never really love Chad if they don't know Chad. They can't really love Bryann if they don't know Bryann, and how terribly tragic that is to not feel truly loved. And I think that's the biggest tragedy in this whole situation, that people feel like they have to hide. They feel like they have to hide in their own families. They feel like they have to hide in church where they should feel the love and grace and acceptance more than anywhere else, right?
No,
That's the irony. That's the irony, is that you were hiding in a place, and so many people are hiding in a place where they should be more themselves than anywhere else because it's okay,
No, absolutely. And touching back a little bit on the religious aspect of me, because that's where I truly struggled the most, was one thing my mom said to me, to put it in perspective to me one day, was that really hit home, was that she said, we're all God's children. And she was like, I know you're not a parent, but I just want you to try and put yourself in a parent's shoes the best you can. And imagine you have a son or a daughter. Is there anything that son or daughter could do that would have you send them to hell for all of eternity? And I was like, absolutely not. My family is everything to me. I can't imagine if I actually had a kid, there's nothing I could do where I would give them that fate. And, in my eyes, we are God's children. So that really hit home with me. And, then my relationship with God started to grow stronger and stronger from that moment. And that's one of the things I'm most thankful for my mom, is to putting it in that perspective to help start to heal that part of my life.
Yes. And I also grew up going to church. I grew up in a conservative home. I grew up in a red state. I am I'm white. I'm a conservative. But all of that is secondary to my relationship with Christ and who I believe God to be. And I believe God to be a loving father, like you just described. And I know that is a struggle for a lot of Christian. I know that this topic is a struggle for a lot of Christian conservatives. And I want to, this, I'm positive that you know this, but I want everyone out there to hear this, because there's too many people that are holding up signs and that are lashing out and saying, God hates this or God hates that, or you're going to hell for this and you're going to hell for that. Well, those people don't speak for God. I listen to what God said, and God said in Romans 8:38, "For I am sure that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus." Those were God's words. So they can hold up whatever sign they want, but those are their words. And even a preacher standing in a pulpit can say whatever he wants to say, but he's not God. That's what God said. God said that nothing can separate us from the love of God.
Amen.
And that means nothing.
Amen.
So sorry to go off on a little
We love it.
tangent there on my soapbox, but what I guess tell me more about. I want to know, like, did your parents? You said your mom guessed that.
Yes.
It was the last question. So was that something she was was it the last question? I mean, it was the last question because obviously it ended the conversation. She got it right. But I mean, was that the question she was afraid to ask? Did she really suspect that, or she really had no clue and she was just throwing random things out?
Well, apparently, now keep in mind this little story, I to this day have zero memory of. But apparently, when I was in 4th grade, she was at the dining room table with some friends, and apparently I walked up to her and I asked her what gay was. And she was like, it's when a boy likes a boy. And I said, I'm gay. And she goes, Chad, no, you're not. Don't say that. She was like, you don't know what you're saying. And she goes, and I was like, well, what is gay? And she was like, no, it's when like a boy likes a boy, like when a boy would want to marry another boy.
Yeah, said, that one. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I heard you the first time.
and then she's like, Chad, stop that. Don't say that again. She was like, you don't know what you're saying. And that was the end of that. I still, like I said, I still have no memory of this conversation, but she is constantly apologizing to me for this, for this story. But so I think from that, I mean, she said, obviously she kind of knew, but then when I got a girlfriend in like middle school, she was like, all right, well, I guess he's not gay. And,
I was right.
Problem solved.
Yeah. So see, my plan worked. I knew if I got the suspicions would go away. But going also like fast forwarding back to when I was 23, apparently she was out by the pool with my sister, Courtney, and my cousin, Michelle. And she said, this was a few months before it came out. She was like, do you ever think Chad is gay? And then my sister and cousin were both like, no way. No, he's not. And, you know, me being with my girlfriend at the time, you know, everybody thought we were getting married, including myself at the time. And, you know, so she had little seeds where she thought it was a possibility. And then, you know, when I finally did come out, like, I'm not sure why it was I'm sure it was like the 4th question she asked just because I did have a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So that like threw it off in her eyes. But, you know, I think deep down she says to this day that like she knew.
Oh, so I know when she had reached out to me, because like I said, we had worked together and we just kind of lost touch, and she reached out because I've been, you know, a lot more vocal during Pride Month about offering services to the LGBT community and families. And she in the message had mentioned, you know, that the age of 6, you had said something to her and she had said no. And like you said, she regrets those words so much. Yeah. And how y'all came from a Baptist, fundamental Baptist background. And your dad's a Baptist, is that right? A Baptist preacher?
Mm-hmm. No, my dad's dad was a Baptist preacher.
Oh, gotcha. So hers. Yeah. Right. So gosh. And so when it comes to family and religion, I feel like those are like the two biggest little things that would hold us back. I said biggest little, but they're not. They're, you know, when in hindsight they're a little bitty, but just thinking about coming out, I remember, you know, myself definitely hearing all the time from church that you're going to hell, and people using verses, and I just think it's so much simpler than that, right? God said, love your neighbor, or Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And I'm like, okay, why? Like, we are definitely complicating things. It can be love. So, Your story's beautiful, and I enjoyed crying to it.
you.
Thank you for sharing it. So tell us where you are now, because gosh, I have so much, and I definitely want to keep talking to you. But tell us what life is like now for you.
So now life is, I feel like it was this puzzle that had been just thrown across the room, and now it's finally starting to come together. Use that cliche reference, but life's going really well. I mentioned earlier about my my struggles with alcohol, and when after I came out, I thought that was the only reason I was drinking, but even after I came out, I was still an alcoholic. The drinking didn't stop after that, just because I had come out. So I checked myself into rehab, and then June 20th was actually the 3-year anniversary of that day. So
congratulations!
Thank you very much. So I am now a sober alcoholic, and proud of it. And I am currently, when I was drinking and before I had come out, I was doing absolutely terrible in school, but that was mainly just because, I wasn't going to school.
Right.
And tends to happen. But
it's hard to do well when you don't.
Crazy connection, right? But now I am about to be finished. On August 28th, I'll be finished with EMT school.
Oh, wow.
And I then will be going into hopefully starting the fire academy in the spring of 2021. So life's coming together from a professional standpoint. And then what I'm most excited about is on August 29th, I'll be getting married to my beautiful fiance, Todd McGraw.
Yay!
Yes. Very, very excited about that. And which is why I'm in Chicago right now. That's where back in January. So he is actually he is a youth pastor, and he got a job up here in St. Charles, Illinois. And so we moved him up here in January, and I'm visiting him right now, and I'll be moving up here the week after we get married. So it's exciting.
Well, congratulations to you both. Yeah, it sounds like everything's coming together for you.
Yes,
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
So, all right, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
And this might be this may be hard to answer, but it occurred to me that, and Annie, you touched on this in our last episode about acting. Why there may be so many LGBTQ actors, because they spend a majority of their life acting, acting like they're not gay, acting straight, hiding, if you will. And so that's just kind of a natural fit for them. So I was wondering, because of the drinking, to cope, do you feel like that having to hide who you are, is that an ongoing issue? Like, does that make sense? Like, do you find, and Annie, maybe this applies to you as well, do you find that you have a tendency to fall back into hiding to cope with other challenges in your relationships? Does that make sense? Like, do you get so used to hiding that becomes a natural tendency? Or once you're out and once you're living authentically, do you kind of leave that tendency behind? Or does it shape the rest of your life?
I know at least with me, I think, definitely after I had come out, I still, hiding that part of you for that long, like, you definitely get used to repressing things, and instead of confronting the underlying issue, you just kind of push it down deeper and deeper. And, that was definitely an issue continuing after I had come out, but that's actually something I learned in rehab and then therapy afterwards, was confronting issues as they arise versus letting them sit and fester and just become a poison to yourself. But no, that's absolutely something I have to be very intentional about. And that naturally I do want to, like, I'm always thinking, I don't want to put this on other people. I don't want my problems to become other people's problems. But, if you just sit there and you ignore them, then they just grow and grow and end up exploding at some point. So it's definitely something I fight, but it's something I've learned through rehab and therapy to learn to cope with and how to address things as they come up.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess with me, like in ways that the straight community can understand, I think of it as people pleasing, right? We were raised to go with the flow and, do what everyone at church is saying, and, please mom and dad and how they want everything to appear, even though it might not be that way. So I definitely consider myself a recovering people pleaser. So there are times that I slip back into that role. But it's so very different than when I was in the closet or when I was growing up. Does that sound good, Bryann?
Yeah. I mean, yes, it does. Thank you. And that's one way that your experience affected you negatively. What is one way that it has affected you positively? Having gone through that struggle, what have you learned from it?
Oh, with me, honestly, it's given me a lot of self-confidence, because, if I can, like, the two hardest things in my life that I've had to overcome are being a gay kid in the closet and being an active alcoholic. And, those things took a lot out of me. And if I was able to come out those two experiences in the end better for it, it gave me a lot of self-confidence. It showed me that if I set my mind to something, and I truly set my mind to something, then there's nobody that's going to stop me. And, I've used that in several aspects of my life, like whether it was dealing with, like, being like when all that drinking for 5 years, I had gotten up to past 250 pounds. And then, I just determined I don't want to be unhealthy anymore. I want to get healthy. And, I get back to where I am now, which the number doesn't matter, but I'm a healthy person and I'm happy with how I am. And, I used it with school. All those years of failing grades, like the not going to class and stuff, I had let it seep into my mind that I just wasn't capable of passing because I just wasn't smart enough. But after coming out and getting through that and getting through alcoholism, I realized I set my mind to it, and, I've gotten straight A's since then. And, it really gave me a lot of self-confidence and self-worth.
Yeah. And that makes all the difference. And,
Awesome.
and for me, like, just providing that contrast, like seeing what it was like before and after. So if you ask anybody that basically knew me in my 20s and before, they'll tell you, like, I'm almost a completely different person like you said, the confidence and, truly being happy. It's amazing what truly being happy will do, right, Chad? It makes such a difference.
Yes.
Or truly being yourself.
Yeah, living
You know what I mean?
authentically.
Yes.
Because, that doesn't go just for the LGBT community. Living authentically and, not people pleasing and not worrying what other people think, because we each have our own life and it's the one you got. So what are you going to do with it?
Right. Okay, Chad, I want you to tell me what advice do you have for parents? What can we do better? It sounds like your parents did an amazing job, especially in that conversation. But just in general, how can parents be better? What can we do better?
I mean, the first and foremost, just constantly preaching unconditional love to your kids. And I think that fear is at the center of every closeted homosexual's doubt. That's what fears is, what is controlling their emotions at that point. So, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything a parent can do to speed up a kid's coming out, because every kid coming out is on their timeline, and every kid's gonna reach that point of coming out at a different point in their life. But as long as you just preach unconditional love and that there's nothing that they could do for them to not have that love from you, I think would just make all the difference. And because like you said, I had a very incredibly fortunate experience in coming out with such an amazing family, but that is absolutely not the case with a lot of people. And just that unconditional love, I don't think there's anything more important than
I love
that.
how you say continuous, because if you say it once, right, it doesn't hold, right? Especially if you've said so many things that were counter to that, right? So like Chad, when you came out and it was a no, that's not right. But like continually having that conversation. I have, clients and know people like at church that are still in the closet, and it just needs to be something that's shared, whether it's at church or on social media. And I came to this realization, sadly, just this week, that if I don't know if someone's an ally, I've been in the habit of automatically assuming that they are not. Just because that's how I grew up, with most people not. So letting people know that you are safe, a safe person to talk to, and that you love them. So even if you don't, and this comes up with Jen Hatmaker. Oh my gosh. Okay. So she has a For the Love podcast, and she interviewed her daughter. And Bryann, you love Jen Hatmaker, right?
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit? I don't know if you can tell us more, because I haven't actually read any of her books, but everyone was going on and on about Fierce, Free, and Full of Fire. And I know she's kind of done a little bit of switching, and she has some haters, right?
So her husband is a pastor. So so obviously she's a Christian, but and she's from Texas. Woo-woo. So woohoo, shout out. So some of what she is beloved, at least in my circles, and has been for years. But she is on I would say, the fringe of conservative Christian. Does that make sense? Yeah. She doesn't always line up, but I love that. I love that she is being outspoken. She's being outspoken about Black Lives Matter. You know, she's being outspoken about the LGBTQ community. So I love that she's, I think, kind of dragging us, and by us, I mean white Christian conservatives, closer to where we need to be, because she is about love. You know, it's all about love and grace. So yes, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
And I love, and you, I hope I'm not about to say what you're going to say, but what I loved about her podcast is that, and I think you may have said this last week. I can't remember, but it's not enough to be non-racist. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not enough anymore to just be non-racist. Like, you can't just be silent about it. Like we need to be more outspoken. You know, we need to be more supportive, you know, when it comes to the black and white issue. The same is true for this. It's not enough to just be polite or kind. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, we need to be supportive, actually. You know, so we can't just sit back anymore and just be kind.
Yeah. And if you have questions, reach out. I actually had a neighbor that has seen me, you know, posting a lot during Pride Month, and he's, you know, reaching out with me because he's struggling as well. And he is African American, and what he shared with me, because he was noticing some things on Cartoon Network that was like kind of triggering him, like, I don't want my son to see this kind of stuff, because it has let me go back real quick. Sorry. It was Cartoon Network sending a message saying that it was okay to be gay or lesbian or trans, and they had kids introduce both moms or dads, and they also had a trans couple talking. And so he started off saying, like, I feel like that shouldn't be something that's on Cartoon Network. And we continued to have this conversation. And then he said, eventually he was like, okay, I'm with you. Still bothers me, but like, I tell people who are bothered by Black Lives Matter, that's a you problem. So this is a me problem. I think Pride Month happening during the middle of all these protests really opened my eyes to looking at what others want as well. So I thought it was just a beautiful way to put it. And just to know, if you're not comfortable with things, like, it can be a process, just like Chad's mom and my family. And it's a process, which is part of the reason why I'm here to help coach individuals and families through this, because, you know, there is some grieving that goes with it, right, Chad? Like, if our parents had one life envisioned for us, there's a little bit of saying goodbye to that. But Chad, and I know you know this, but your mom's so proud of you and so excited.
Yeah, she's very, it's one of the things I love her. She's very vocal about the love for her kids. So we could not be more blessed with such amazing parents. So she lets us know it every day.
Yes. Oh, okay. One more thing. So Bryann, you asked Chad, you know, what advice does he have to parents? And one thing that he had mentioned, you know, when your mom first confronted you about the gasoline, and she said, what's wrong? Or, you know, there's have to be something wrong. And the first thing you did was denial, right? Like, yes. No, nothing's wrong. So that's where a lot of parents will stop. Like, oh, I asked, I checked that box. They said nothing. But instead, she knew, and she kept pushing, even though she knew she was probably about to, you know, unearth something very uncomfortable. Yes. So just keep asking, right? Just keep digging. What's wrong? And if, you know, you might get a surface level answer. What's wrong? What's wrong? And countering that with, you know, support as well. Like, I love you no matter what's wrong. And I even have a client that the parents have asked if they were gay, and they said no. And they were sharing with me that they would almost be more comfortable, like, because it sounds like, of course, the parents know. And there's this interesting aspect where, you know, parents are some parents are getting to a spot where they're like, well, we want them to be able to come out on their own terms. So then there's like this holding pattern. So she was telling me like she would rather her parents just say, we know this is you and it's okay. So it's just keep asking questions. And like Chad said, parents, just keep continuously being a open, safe place and sharing that unconditional love for your kids, because it'll make a world of difference. And reach out if you need to.
You know, Annie, I know you said it last week, but I want you to say it again, about how bad theology kills. Explain what that means for people.
Yeah. So Bad Theology Kills is actually a book by a fellow life coach named Kevin Garcia. You can get it on Amazon, but it just talks, basically what you were saying as well about, people with posters and people preaching what they believe their interpretation of the Bible is, instead of love and acceptance, and how, and I don't know all the stats off the top of my head, but I know I posted the other day part of Jen Hatmaker's podcast, and I'll share just a few of the percentages. So she said 77% of LGBTQ teenagers surveyed reported feeling very depressed or down in that current week. 95% of them reported trouble sleeping at night. What are some more? 70% reported feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness. 67% said that they have heard family members make negative comments about LGBTQ people. So, yeah. And I feel like we've all been there. And I feel like the world is evolving. Like my tiny town, my small town of Sherman, had a pride parade or festival last year. And we were driving by and we saw the sign and we were like, it said, Pride Parade or Pride Festival. And we were like, do they know what pride means? Like, was that an accident? What are they? And we went back and checked it out, and it was so amazing and such a beautiful space for people to. And we talked about, the Pride Parade, Bryann, and your mom hugs last time. But I feel like, the world is getting there, but some people are getting there faster. So even if you feel like you don't know anyone in your family, as Jen Hatmaker and her daughter say, like, pretend that you do. Like, pretend that there's someone in your life and be vocal and open and loving, because someone's going to hear your voice that you might not realize.
Well, and I don't want to sugarcoat it, but like it literally kills. Like Chad, I mean, you were drinking yourself to death, and I know that I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but I know that suicide is an astronomical problem in the LGBT community. So it quite literally does kill, either figuratively or literally. So like this is serious business. So parents need to understand that the way that they are living and the way that they're talking and the way that they're treating people today in this moment, your child may be gay and you don't know it yet, and do you want them to go down the road that Chad went, which thankfully he was saved from that, before it got worse. But this is something that parents really need to take seriously, yeah. Thank you so much, Chad.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I could come on and talk.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we missed? Is there something that you want to say, kind of closing words?
Just anybody who's out there who hasn't come out, and has people around them just pushing negativity into their life, spewing hate, just to focus on the fact that I don't care who you are capable of love, you are worthy of love no matter what. And that negativity that people push towards you is just a reflection of their own insecurities. Mm-hmm. And they have their own underlying issues. And unfortunately, sometimes the way they cope with it is by lashing out towards others. And just know that, life's a journey. You're going to have your ups and downs, and to just stay strong. And I promise you that everybody is worthy of love.
That's right. That's right. So, Chad, do you have any recommendations in terms of books, documentaries, or anything you recommend families to check out?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a book called Rainbow in the Word, LGBTQ Christians' Biblical Memoirs. And it is a book about different LGBT people who are pastors in seminary school or LGBT allies. And it's just written by several authors going into different passages of scripture and how that scripture affected their lives and what it means to them being an LGBTQ member. And it's a great book. My fiance actually was published in a few of the pages, and the pastor officiating our wedding is in it too. And it's a great book by my fiance. His passage covers Corinthians 13.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everyone's heard it at weddings. Love is patient, love is kind. And it's just that passage is what made him know that he was worthy of love and that his future person was out there. And it's a great book.
Thank you. We will add that with a link in the Happy Mama Toolbox. So thank you so much, Chad.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So don't forget to go check out the Toolbox at toolbox.thehappymamavillage.com for mama tips, tools, and resources.
Thank you to you, Chad, and for everyone that is spending time with us today here at the Happy Mama Village.
Check out the show notes for more information about us and how to connect. We would love to hear from you about today's episode and any takeaways or aha moments that have inspired you.
Awesome. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for spending time listening to this episode. I hope that you were inspired from our time together. We want to encourage you to leave a review, subscribe, and share a favorite episode that another mama needs to hear so that she can feel supported as she continues the brave and sometimes lonely journey of motherhood and life itself. By sharing, together we can change lives. If you are feeling overwhelmed and alone on this journey, reach out. We are here to help. Thanks for listening.